Hey Miyagi,
Hey, Shaggy.
should we go hiking on the Uinta Highline Trail?
Ooh, I got an idea.
Woohoo! You want to plan the trip for us?
Well, I'll plan the trip.
Oh, let's go, buddy.
Just follow me.
The Uinta Highline Trail is one of those trails that have been on my bucket list and something that I've wanted to do for years. Uinta Highline Trail is located in northeastern Utah, and the Uinta Mountains are a rugged, beautiful mountain range that actually runs east-west instead of north-south like the Rocky Mountains. The Uinta Trail, most of it is going to be over 10,000 feet above tree line. We're going to be exposed, which makes for some beautiful views, but also we could be exposed to some weather, whether that be thunderstorms, wind, rain, snow, who knows? We're going to be prepared for it. So, on this trail, the trail, like I said, is 110 miles, runs east to west. There are 7 peaks. Total ascent is 21,025 feet. Total descent, 18,899 feet. Total elevation change just under 40,000 feet. The maximum elevation is Kings Peak, which is 13,476 feet. That isn't actually on the trail, but we're going to take the short hike to make that summit. And the lowest elevation is right under 8,200 feet, which is right where we are starting on the east end. So we're hopefully going to work our way up into that altitude gradually. So the climatizing and getting used to the altitude isn't going to kill us too bad. So when we got ready for this, we watched a couple videos. Some of my favorite ones. It's not on YouTube. It's a movie called Highline. It's the guys from Zpacks, outdoor retailer down in Florida, uh, hiking the trail. I don't think everyone on that group finished it, but that movie is available on Amazon, iTunes, Vimeo, and others. I'll put a link in the description. The other video is from another gear outfitter company, Outdoor Vitals. The name of the channel is Tyson Whitaker. He's the founder of that company. They did a couple hikes. The first one, they had to quit because of the weather. The second one, they made it all the way through. Not everyone in the group made it along. So on this hike, I am actually going to be joined by some other people. I'm going to be joined by my buddy Miyagi and the Mule. Miyagi's doing most of the planning for this trip, and he knows way more about the trail and the mountain range. So let's bring in Miyagi.
What's up, Shaggy?
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, buddy. Long time no see.
You're not gonna kill me on this hike, are you?
Just follow me. Everything will be okay.
So yeah, we've been planning on this trip for quite a while. I was looking at my emails. We've been talking about it for over 6 months.
We have been. In fact, I think we talked about it shortly after our Grand Canyon video. We said, we gotta do another big adventure, and this was kind of on your bucket list, I know.
Yeah.
And there's only a handful of people that have done this trail that put out videos on YouTube. So it's definitely a challenge, but it's one of those where you don't need permits, like some of the more famous trails out west. This is true alpine, lots of vistas. You don't need a permit, and you don't need to pay any money. So
Yeah. Well, you don't have to pay any money for a permit, but it's not free.
it's not free.
So on this trip, Mule and I both live here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. We're going to drive down, meet you in Iowa, jump in with you. We're going to carpool out to Utah. We're going to make a stop in Nebraska and then finish driving through on the second day. We're bringing your significant other trips.
Yes, Trips is going to come, and the really cool part for us is we kind of have a built-in shuttle, and in case one of us does have an issue, either with high altitude sickness or an injury, the girls, in fact, Trips' sister, the Wanderer, is going to fly out a couple days after, and they're going to meet in Park City and kind of do their own adventure. But for us, it's a built-in shuttle in case one of us has an issue. And like you said, we all have the Garmin InReach, and we can reach out. I do have a couple of bailouts built into our plan A through E, which we can discuss later. But yeah, just in case somebody does get in trouble, I like to plan a bailout and emergencies just in case someone has some trouble.
So, the west terminus of the trail, how far is it from Salt Lake City?
From Salt
A
Lake,
couple hours?
not, I don't even think I think it's about 2 hours, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And yeah, so I mean, if somebody didn't have a ride like us and wanted to through hike it like we're doing, it's a pretty difficult because the shuttle would be pretty expensive. It's pretty long, I think, right?
It is. Yeah. I think I mapped it from the eastern terminus for her to get to Park City. Park City is kind of a suburb of Salt Lake, and it's about a 5.5 hour drive just to get back
Yeah.
to the city from the eastern terminus. There are a few shuttles that run in the area, but I don't like to depend on them if we don't have to. So it's nice having the girls out there with us.
So yeah, it'll be nice because, like you said, if we need to bail out, we can call them. All three of us do have the Garmin's, which not only can we talk to trips. You know, if we need to bail out, I can talk to my wife. Chuck can talk to his girlfriend, and um, we can also talk to each other. So what people don't see in our videos is, honestly, I don't like to hike with you, Miyagi.
At least behind, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I like to, I get kind of crabby if I'm around people all day. So
For those that don't know,
I'm really
he's a really good camp mate. Not exactly the best
yeah.
trail mate. He gets a little ornery from time to time.
You've seen those commercials. I think you need a Snickers
Yeah,
because you're kind of being a B word.
that's why I
Yeah,
carry Snicker
that's
bars.
guilty.
Yeah, that's you.
Guilty.
Yeah, the guys
But
zero chill
and while I'm hiking,
while you're hiking. While you're hiking.
yeah, and once I've earned the right to chill at camp, then we can lay back and have fun. So, which is kind of nice here to have those Garmin's because, like Chuck and I in Colorado, where I was the only one that had one, he didn't have one. I'm sitting at camp at 7 o'clock at night going, "Where's Chuck?" You know, I'm kind of worried about him. And this way, you know, if somebody does have to quit early, they can tell us and we don't have to worry about them.
There's never been a situation where you've worried about us, has there?
Yeah.
Specifically, Mule and I.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, Miyagi almost killed Mule and I in the Grand Canyon. I hope all these water sources are there on this trip.
Oh, like your secret water source.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into it here. We're going to talk about each day. Like I said, we're hiking east to west, and we're doing that for two reasons. Maybe you can talk about why.
So on the eastern end, the elevation is about the mid 8,000s. So it gives you a chance to acclimate to the elevation. And I'm coming southeastern Wisconsin. I'm barely below 1,000 feet of elevation. I don't know where it's at up by you, but um, I haven't done the high altitude hiking that you have. So this is the first hike for me where altitude may become an issue. I've never had to deal with that before. So hiking from the eastern terminus, it puts you at a lower elevation. The first day and a half, really, I wouldn't say flat hiking, but it's definitely not the elevations that we're going to be seeing in day number 3 through 8. So it does allow your body to acclimate.
Yeah. So Chuck and I have been to Colorado multiple times, been up at altitude, but just because your body responded on one hike or 5 hikes to altitude okay, that doesn't guarantee you that on your next hike you're not going to get sick from altitude. So all three of us are taking a medication before we start, and just the first day to help us climatize and get to the altitude, called Diamox. We've taken it before. It's like maybe we don't need to take it, but we don't want to do all this planning and then have to stop, on day one and just sit there and wait for everybody else. So we're just playing it safe. Okay, let's hop in. Day one on the east end. I was going to mention, though, that we're also going east to west, which is nice because we hike in the morning and the sun will be at our back instead of our eyes. So, Okay, day one. Day one, we're getting there late. Like I said, we're driving from Nebraska. Um, so we're going to get there late afternoon, and we're only going to hike 4.36 miles from McKee Draw to the East Park Reservoir. Over that hike, there's 1,173 feet of ascent, 362 feet of descent, maximum elevation of 9,342 and a minimum elevation of just under 8,200 feet. So, like you said, it is kind of flat, but there is a decent hill when we start.
Correct. Correct. And this is one of those sections of the trail that a lot of people do avoid because you're not in the high Uinta Mountains yet. You're kind of in the foothills, so to speak, of the high Uintas. You're hiking in a lot of pines and things, and it's just not what most people are going there for. However, if you're purist, kind of like we are, and you want to see the entire trail, you start on the east end. The only big drawbacks that I've heard of camping near the East Park Reservoir is in that pasture land, there are a lot of cows, and I've seen a few videos where people were kind of harassed by the cows. There is a tree line there, so I think what we're going to do is tuck in as best we can that first night. But like Shay said, it's only about a 4.5 mile hike that first day, and that again, that's going to give us a chance to acclimate.
Is that reservoir water pretty clean, or do we have to worry about the cows?
Uh, so I zoomed in on Google Earth, and there's a boat launch on the other side of the lake. So it is a rather
Okay.
large.
Okay.
Not sure the depth, but um, people haven't had any issues with the water there.
Because I was only going to start with like 700 milliliters of water, so I didn't have to
Yeah,
carry it.
and then there
So,
is Little Brush Creek that flows, I believe, into it, either into or out of it. I believe into it. So there's a small freshwater spring that we should be close by. So
okay. Okay, for day two, this may change. I should mention that we've already talked about before the video started that we aren't married to this itinerary. When you're on a long hike like this, you kind of have to take it as it comes and be flexible. And I really like having Miyagi because he knows all the details about the trail. So if we do have to do a plan B, uh, just knowing those details helps us do that. But plan A for day two was to hike 20.1 miles. That's a really long hike for our second day at altitude. And we're going to have those super heavy packs where we're carrying still another 7 days of food. But on this hike, we're going from East Park Reservoir to Hacking Lake. Total ascent is 3,480 feet, descent 1,855 feet. Maximum elevation, we're getting up over that 10,000 feet to 10,760, and we're starting down at 9,000 feet.
So the idea here is we're going to get past this large stretch. If you do any research on the trail, you're going to run into this part of the trail. They always describe as the dry, where you have to do these super long water carries. We did some research and we found out there might be a few water sources between here and there, but we're trying to get to Hacking Lake, which is on the east side of Leedy Peak. Leedy Peak is kind of the first large mountain formation that we're going to be passing on day three. And the idea is ending at that 20+ mile mark at Hacking Lake. So we'll be again by a water source. I am bringing some light fishing tackle. So my intention is, if I'm not dead by the end of the day and completely worn out, I would like to do a little bit of fishing at some of these lakes. The high altitude, there's a lot of cutthroat trout, different types of trout. So I'm going to try my hand at that. So a lot of the itinerary building that I did, I tried to put us as close to a larger water source as I could each night.
So the original plan for this is 20.1 miles, and originally we had planned to carry water for that whole 20 miles. So our packs are going to have 7 days of food, could have a couple liters of water. However, you and my friend Dylan at Pilgrim UL, he actually lives very close to this trail, and my backpack is called the Highline Backpack and is designed for hiking a trail like this for ultra lightweight people that can carry extra weight with a frame. So Dylan and you found a spring that Dylan says is very dependable that's about 10 miles into this. So I'm hoping that I don't have to carry extra water on this trip or on this segment. It all depends on how hot it is and what the weather's going to be.
So I saw a video by a guy by the name of Chad Levinsky. He actually does a really good series on the Highline Trail, and he actually got by. He was doing some pretty big miles. Actually, went further than we did on that second day. But he said moving at a greater speed, kind of like we usually do, he was able to get by with 2 liters with no issue. He kind of did it at around the same time of the year. So, having that
Yeah.
having that spring that we were able to locate, and your buddy there verify that even the later months, we're going to be doing this at the end of August, that it's a fairly reliable source that gives us some hope that, we don't have to carry the 3 liters. So that'll be nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm carrying a 1 liter and a 700 milliliter, and if I have to carry more, I'm carrying it in my dirty water. So, if right now I'm planning to just fill my 2 water bottles and fill up at that spring. So,
Yeah. And I think the best idea is cameling up early that morning, drinking as much as you can.
yeah,
I don't drink
yeah,
a whole lot of water on trail, I'll be honest with you. I mean, enough
yeah.
to stay hydrated, but definitely less than most.
Yeah, I mean, that's one difference that I'll do that day is usually I filter my water the night before. I get up, I start hiking. I don't really drink that much water at camp, and I start, drinking along the way, and then I filter along the way. But that day, I'm definitely going to have to camel up, drink a bunch of water, and filter in the morning. So, okay, day three. Day three is 15.2 miles from Hacking Lake to, is it Chepeta Lake?
Chipeta Lake.
Chepeta Lake. Uh, so the total ascent is 2,581 feet. Descent is 2,649 feet. Maximum elevation of 11,687 feet. Minimum elevation 10,440 feet.
So this stretch, we start getting into some elevation. Our first pass is going to be like right after Lake Wild. That's Gabbro Pass. Gabbro Pass is, I don't know if you have your data right in front of you there, but it's going to be our first higher elevation pass. Let's see, day number 3. What are we looking at? Gabbro Pass, sitting at about just shy of 12,000 feet, 11,687. We pass a number of trails along the way there, and then we find ourselves near Dead Man Lake, where apparently back in the day an old prospector died, and that's where the Dead Man Lake got its name. Probably a good spot to hunker down for a quick break. That's the other thing that I noticed in a lot of the videos that I was watching is even these high speed guys, they're doing quite a bit of braking. And this is nice because we are going to be stopping at a number of lakes along the way. After Dead Man, we're going to be going over an unnamed pass right around 11,500 feet. And then we'll be hitting White Rocks Lake, which is another really good place to stop and have a break, do a little bit of fishing. And then it's on to our stop for the evening there. That's Chipeta Lake. And Chipeta is kind of the last. Chipeta is where a lot of people will actually start the trip at Chipeta or at Leedy. Because there is a road that leads into Chipeta Lake. It's actually a series of lakes. You got Chipeta, Moccasin, Wigwam, and Papoose Lake, which are all nestled kind of in the foothills of the mountains right there. So real pretty area. But it also gives us a chance if someone's dealing with some high altitude sickness, twisted ankle, what have you, Trips in the Wanderer can drive back and pick us up. But that's kind of it. After that, we're going to be on our own. If
So that's
something
about
happens,
that must be about 40 miles in.
that at Chipeta is actually, I haven't marked here. That's actually mile 38 coming into
Okay.
Chipeta right there. So
Yeah. And one thing that we haven't talked about is this trail. A lot of it there may not be a trail where you're walking across Alpine. We're using Gaia as a direction. We know we need to go to the left side of the lake. Up that pass, that type of thing. So that will slow you down if you're trying to go fast, as well as from the videos I've seen. A lot of it is pretty rocky, pretty gravelly, and I am really concerned because I've almost fallen a few times going down hills on that loose gravel and sliding. So every footstep needs to be intentional.
Yeah, that's the way people describe it, as an absolute rock field almost everywhere you go. And you talk about getting lost after Chipeta Lake here. We actually enter a wooded area for quite some time, and this is one of those areas where a lot of people tend to get lost, and it's a bit marshy, a bit swampy. A lot of water after Chipeta Lake. You don't have to really worry about carrying a ton of water. Um, yeah, so
Okay, let's transition right into day 4, where we're hiking 15 miles from Chipeta Lake to Kidney Lakes. Uh, the total ascent is 2,595 feet, descent 2,310 feet, maximum elevation 12,264 feet, minimum elevation of 10,575. So we're over 10,000 feet that whole time. But you're saying some of it is wooded?
some of it's wooded. In fact, our first, if we end up staying at Chipeta Lake, right after that, it's fairly wooded, and that's where a lot of people have described getting lost. You really got to kind of watch the trail. So that's where having Gaia, some sort of all trails, some digital maps on your phone is key. And so we'll be popping out of the woods and hitting one of our more major passes on the way up to North Pole Pass, which is quite aggressive. So we'll be doing that rather early in the day. And this is a good time to mention that when you're building an itinerary like this with these passes, the Uintas are really unique, as Shaggy said, because they're east-west or west-east oriented, which means that when these systems come in from the west, there's nothing impeding them. They're not getting blown up against the mountain range. They're kind of whipping right through the mountain range. So it's not uncommon to have blue skies, and literally an hour later, you've got snow falling or sleet or hail. The temperature range this time of year is anywhere from 20 degrees, close to 80 degrees. You just really don't know what you're going to get. So when it comes to these passes, you really want to do them as early in the morning as you can, because you do not want to get caught at high altitude in the Alpine with lightning. A lot of this hiking is above tree line, and if you are the highest thing, uh, you're you're prone to a lightning strike, and people have died in the high Uintas from lightning strikes.
Yeah, and I mean, you haven't done a whole lot of hiking above tree line, but on the trip that I was just on in Wyoming, I went up and I was camping, and I didn't prepare for that hike very well, and I was planning to camp by a lake, but the lake was at 11,000 feet, and it was all rock. It was a nice lake, but there's no place to camp. So I had to keep on hiking farther, and as I was coming down that, it was blue skies, and I just felt the wind, and I turned around, and there were black clouds behind me, and 40-mile-per-hour winds, and I mean, it just came on me like that. So uh, it comes quickly. So, all right, day 5, Kidney Lakes to Yellowstone Creek, 14.5 miles. Total ascent, 3,515 feet. Descent, 3,337 feet. Maximum elevation, just under 13,500 feet. Minimum elevation of about 10,400 feet.
So this is the big day, and this is the day that I hope Lady Luck is on our side. Ideally, you would camp kind of in the shadow of Kings Peak. So on this particular day, we're going to be ascending to Utah's highest peak, Kings Peak. They call it the Valley of the Kings, and she sits at 13,528 feet. So it's a big one, and this is one that you'd want to do in the morning. Unfortunately, we have a little bit of a hike to do, so this is one of those days where we're going to have to convince Mule to get his butt up a little bit earlier in the morning and hit this one, because we want to be heading up Anderson Pass, which is where you get to Kings Peak. Kings Peak isn't part of the trail, but we've all kind of decided that, hey, you're there. If the weather's cooperating, let's definitely do it. The problem is, once you get up to Anderson Pass, there's a trail, but it's not really a trail. It's basically a rock scramble. You're scrambling across this large boulder field on your way up to Kings Peak. So it is going to take some time. And like I said, we're probably not going to be hitting it early in the morning. It'll be late morning, if not around noon. So we're going to pray that the weather's on our side on that one. If not, we might need to hunker down for a little bit until we can do it.
And just looking at our elevation profile, it looks like, you know, the steepest part of going up to Kings Peak, it's a little over 2,200 feet. So it's a pretty decent climb. And, not only going up takes time, but when you have that rock scramble, you got to be careful because your legs are jello coming back down, because that wouldn't be a good place to get hurt.
No, no, and that's why on this particular trip, there are some guys. If you watch the Outdoor Vital guys, they did this trip. Not all of them. The ones that made it did it in 5 days. I would not recommend that to anybody. Doing 20 plus miles a day is not recommended. And you're talking to guys. Shaggy and I both like doing big miles. It's enjoyable. This is not one of those trails, unless you are well conditioned and at the top of your game, where you should be doing 20 plus miles a day. I try to keep everything between about 13 and 18. We do have the one bigger day, but it's earlier on. Because of that, you're going to be beating your knees up. And I'm not worried about the ascent. I'm worried about the descent. It's always the downs. You talk to anybody that does any high elevation, Appalachian Trail, those types of things. It's not the up, it's the down that eventually gets you.
Yeah, and I know our other buddy Mule, he gets sore knees from going down as well. But all right, so day 6, 12.2 miles, so a little bit shorter, going from Yellowstone Creek to Lambert Lake. I see there's a big climb there. Total ascent just under 2,000 feet, descent just under 2,000 feet. Maximum elevation 12,225. Minimum elevation 10,000, about 900 feet.
So that night, the morning we start that hike, we're on Yellowstone Creek, and some of the things that I found, the reason we picked that campsite is that night, hopefully the weather's with us, but you have this beautiful panorama of the Kings Valley with Kings Peak. So I'm hoping that we're going to have just an absolutely beautiful night there on the trail, but we will be exposed. So again, I hope that luck is with us, and we'll say our prayers that we don't have some storms that roll through. But when we get going in the morning on that day, we're going to be heading through on our way towards Tungsten Pass. So that'll be our first big pass of the day. And then I read that it's not that big of a deal. Pass a number of lakes along the way, Y19, Tungsten Lake, North Star Lake, all really good spots for a break. And then we hit our first bigger pass, which is Porcupine Pass. And that's one that we're probably going to be doing about midday. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, we built some time in for, if we get held back by weather. However, you know me.
Go.
Day 3, we only hiked 4 miles. I guess day 4 we're going to do 25.
So we did build some time in the end, though. So we hike a Friday to a Friday, and we literally have Saturday, Sunday. Monday is Labor Day, so we got a little bit of extra time built in case we need to go. I already told Trips and the Wanderer, you guys might have to camp at the west terminus if we get held up by weather. But yeah, we might have some big days if we get held up.
But then you also have to worry about running out of food too, right?
Yeah.
You may be fishing for a purpose.
That's true. That's true.
All right, let's move on. Day 7, 16.6 miles. Lambert Lake to Brinkley Lake. Ascent just under 4,000 feet. Descent 4,400 feet. Maximum elevation just over 12,000 feet. Minimal elevation, we're getting under 10,000 feet to 9,900.
So yeah, Lambert Lakes, which we'll be leaving from. The reason I picked that particular area is I've read a lot about the wildlife in that area, and there's supposed to be a lot of mountain goat activity and elk activity in that Lambert Meadows area that we're going to be camping near and up on the cliff face. So we're hoping for a lot of wildlife encounters before we kind of get into the trail. Moose, elk, these are things that people report seeing quite often, a lot of deer. So passing through these meadows and some of these rock faces, we're hoping to see some of these critters. But as we make our way through Lambert Meadow, our first big pass of the day is going to be Red Knob Pass, which is a doozy. But it's supposed to be absolutely gorgeous as you make your way from Red Knob Pass down into the valley there. And that's right near Dead Horse Lake, which is a very popular area. So after we take a break at Dead Horse Lake, we'll be negotiating Dead Horse Pass. So that's another big one for that day. And then we'll be making our way down towards Ledge Lake, along Ledge Lake. And then on to, let's see, where are we staying that evening?
Brinkley Lake.
Brinkley Lake. So this is an area we're going to get into, an area where there's a lot of discussion into which way that you should take. So there's a series of trails. It almost kind of looks like a target if you look at it on the map there. It's kind of a big circle. The Highline Trail is the southern route, but apparently there's been a big burn off in the area there, and there's some that had recommended going north along what they call the head of Rock Creek Trail, and it's about 2 miles longer, but it's more scenic. It kind of takes you away from that burn area, and the trail is easier to negotiate. So we'll have to make a decision kind of on the day which way we want to go. Looking at some of the groups that went through there, the Outdoor Vitals group, they had no problem. They said it was, a little difficult, but manageable, heading on the Uinta Highline Trail. But that night, the plan is to hike to Brinkley Lake, which is kind of in that loop there. So we're going to backtrack just slightly and try to get in some more fishing on just a series of lakes there in that area.
Cool. All right, day 8, our last day, we're going to hike 10.5 miles from Brinkley Lake to Hayden Pass Trailhead. Trip's going to pick us up a little afternoon. That hike, total ascent of 1,850 feet, descent just under 2,000 feet. Maximum elevation, about 11,300 feet. Minimum elevation, just under 10,000 feet.
So right away in the morning, we're going to be hitting Rocky Sea Pass, which is going to be, I think, our last big pass of the day. Then we're going to be coming back down kind of into the valley, kind of a wooded area. And we're going to be rounding out the trip to about a 10.5 mile hike back to the trailhead. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Oh, I can't wait. Not too much longer now. So, my biggest worry on this trip is I'm bringing my hiking bowl tent, the Zpacks Duplex. I think all three of us are bringing Zpacks tents. And my biggest worry is sleeping in wind with that pole tent and my little stakes. So, I camp in a hammock most of the time, so I'm not real great with the tent, but we may have to batten down if we're sleeping in that wind.
Yes, and kind of like the Grand Canyon, we have to prepare for a wide range of temperatures. I'm still going to be rocking the shorty shorts, but I'm debating bringing some leggings or some pants on this one just for the evenings. If it does drop down into the 30s and 40s, not that you can't wear shorts in 30s and 40s, but I just want to be prepared. This is an environment that I don't personally have a lot of experience in, so. I did pony up a little bit of money for some new lighter weight gear. I got some Enlightened equipment, the new rain jacket, yeah, the new raincoat. So pared down. Yeah. You got a new bag. You got a new quilt from Hammock gear, I believe, right?
Yep. Just came today. So yeah, I can't wait. And Chuck, I know, is excited as well. So anything else you want to talk about gear? Before we
no, I would say on this trip, if you're planning your own trip, just try to pare everything down as much as possible. This isn't a trip that you want to bring a bunch of those luxury items. Leave the camp seats at home. You're going to be feeling it in your knees. I've never done this trail, and I can tell you, we're going to be feeling it in our knees. So what's nice
but
is...
But you don't want to go too far the other way either, right? Where you're bringing a 50-degree quilt and sleep in a bivvy and that sort of thing. So...
Right. And the nice thing is most of our weight is in food. And when we start hitting the bigger passes, we'll be a few days, less. You figure about 2 pounds or so of food a day. So,
yeah,
it'll be getting better.
Very good. All right, let's wrap this thing up. If you guys don't know Miyagi, you can check out his YouTube channel, Miyagi on the Trail.
Miyagi on the Trail.
You still do videos, right?
I do. I do. And for those that are wondering, Trips is doing really well. She's finishing up her treatment now, so we're hoping that we will get back on trail as a couple and start doing videos and things again real soon. So we haven't disappeared. We just had a lot going on in our life in the last year and a half here, and I appreciate those who have reached out and supported us. So thanks everybody.
Awesome. I can't wait to see Trips. I haven't seen her in a couple years. So, All right, friends, that's the end of the video. Check out Midwest Backpacker on Instagram. On what else can they look at? I guess they can look at Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the bell notification.
Buy
And
some of that
Miyagi,
merch.
what?
Buy some of that merch.
Yeah. And Miyagi, what do I always say at the end of my videos? You can have the line.
And I'll see you out on the trail.
Nice.